Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Dani, and today it's time to talk about the books that I read in June. So let's talk about books. There are still 5 days left on the month of June, and I've already read 12 books this month. So I thought it would be better to already do a wrap up, and whatever I read after this, I will just talk about in the next wrap up, because there's already a lot, and I don't want this video to be super long. So like I said, I read 12 books in a total of 4,055 pages. A lot of these were manga, or I also read two graphic novels, so the number of pages don't really mean too much, but it was 4,055 pages, which is a lot of fun. I have a few 5 stars, a few 4, and a few 3 stars, nothing lower than that, so that's good. Actually, I have one that was 2.8 on my rating scale, and then I bumped it to 3 because it was close enough, but it didn't quite get to 3. But let's talk in the order that I read them and see what I remember. I didn't hold my wrap-up basket up. Let me try to do that. Because I had 2 this month already because they don't fit. This is one basket. Oh my god. And it's already really heavy, and there are 3 books that are not in the basket. And there's one that I read in my library, so also not in the basket. I have all my ratings here on my computer, so let's start. The first book I read in June was Dry by Neil Shusterman. This was not picked by the M&ms, was not part of any book club, but I was in the mood to read it for a long time, so I just picked it up and I read it and I loved it, and it was 5 stars. I tabbed so many things in this book. So this talks about a drought in California. We follow Alyssa and I already forgot his name, Kelton, and suddenly out of nowhere there's no water coming out of the taps. There's no water coming out of the shower or anything. And in this book, I didn't know more than what I already told you going into it, but in this book, the parents of this girl leave to go get water and the place that they're distributing water, and they don't come back. So the story goes from there. She and Kelton develop a friendship unexpectedly because they didn't really like each other before, or she didn't like him at least. And we also have her little brother, which is such a precious thing that you just want to protect. I forgot his name also. Garrett. Her little brother. His name is Garrett. It's very heavy, but with very light moments, and it's still entertaining. It's not just about like there's a drought and what people were doing about it, and like this very heavy theme trying to teach you to save water or anything like that. It's a very entertaining story, but still with intense scenes and a very important message in the end. Not only about like water, but also about friendship and family and how to deal with a situation that's completely out of your control and what people do when that situation happens. I really recommend that. I loved it. The second book I read in June was The Girl in the Train by Paula Hawkins. This is the Brazilian edition of it. I read it in Portuguese. And this was picked by the M&ms, but also I really wanted to read it because my husband wanted to rewatch the movie and I wanted to read it first. We talked about it like a year ago, but I finally read it and we finally watched the movie together. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3.6 stars out of 5 stars, and I bumped it to 4, I think, on Goodreads probably. This is the story of a woman who gets on a train every day to go to work. And she sees this woman out of the window every time the train stops in a traffic light. And she observes this woman with her husband, and she has this whole story in her head of what this woman's life is. And suddenly the woman disappears. And she feels like she has information for the police to help with that investigation. And it goes from there. I feel like this feels already a bit old. When was it published? 2015? It was published in Brazil. 2015, yeah, it's the original one. But in this 5 years, I feel like I read thrillers that are more not well developed. I think this is everything fits in the end, and I really like how it all was solved. But it was not too difficult to solve this mystery here, because there are not a lot of characters that you're following. So unless you're gonna pick someone out of the story to say that's the killer, Like there's not many places to go. But I think it was still a lot of fun, and the movie was also a lot of fun. I think it was a great adaptation. They changed a little bit, like not important things, and just the way they told the story is different. So like after reading the book, I feel like they gave things away in the movie too soon. But of course, if you haven't read the book, then you might not feel like that in the movie because you don't know the rest of the story, so you don't know what they're giving away too soon. So I think it was a great adaptation and it was fun. And then I read Agnes at the End of the World by Callie McWilliams. This was an arc, but this book was already published in June 9th. So I read it right at around that time on June 9th, and I posted on Instagram. Remember to follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you are not already, and remember to subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of very exciting videos planned for this month. Let's go back. This book tells the story of Agnes, who lives in a cult, basically. It's a very small town that is led by a religious fanatic. She's a very religious girl, but she doesn't really know what she was led to believe and what are her actual beliefs. This town is led by this prophet. There's a boy who comes from the outside because she needs help from the outside. I'm not going to tell what's going on, but she needs help from the outside, and this boy comes and she starts to question a few things that are going on. But also, this is already very exciting. I love like cult stories. But this world, like outside of her village, there's a pandemic going on, and people are getting this disease that makes them very aggressive, like zombies. And this whole thing, like in her town where the prophet doesn't tell anyone that what's going on outside of the world, but of course it eventually will get to them. But yeah, so this is very fun, and it was very surprising how much I enjoyed it in the sense of the religious parts, because I'm not a very religious person. So I was very worried in some parts of the book that this was trying to teach me something, but it was not really like that. There are characters here that are not religious at all. Pretty much everyone respect each other and they try to do the right thing. Most of the characters here, which is just good and refreshing. Like some of the characters that they meet here, they're really actually trying to do the right thing, no matter what you believe in. Like they're trying to be good people. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it, and I don't know how other people feel about this book, but I recommend it. I think it was very interesting. I gave the book Agnes and the End of the World 3.9 and bumped it to 4 on Goodreads. The next book I read in June was We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I gave this 5 stars. I didn't really do my normal way of rating books for this one because it's a nonfiction. It's super tiny and look how cute it is. But this talks about feminism. I love what she says here, the way she talks about it. I love the way she writes and the way she talks about these topics. I've read Dear Joelle last year, and I'm going to reread this month still. It's already also going to be a 5 stars. I will already tell you that, but I think everyone should read this book at least once a year just to keep these things in mind. And then I read the 3 next volumes on Fullmetal Alchemist 3, 4, and 5. Let me show you the covers, because that's the best part of these editions. So pretty! If you watched my mid-year freakout tag, I mentioned that Izumi was one of my favorite new characters this year, and this is her, and I love her so much. She's awesome. But I can't say much about what happened here because it's the 3, 4, and 5 volumes on the series. But this Fullmetal Alchemist is a series that talks about 2 brothers who are alchemists. They can turn things into other things, and they did some pretty bad things when they were little, and they are trying to deal with that and trying to fix some of those things. It's just so much fun. There's a lot of adventure, there's a lot of partnership and friendship between the brothers, between all the other characters. All the characters here are so well developed, and I care so much about all of them. I love the villains in the series, and I can't wait to continue reading this. Also, I just saw V. Schwab posted that their Crusade of Magic was a little bit inspired in Fullmetal Alchemist. So, long story short, I bought the whole series of A Darker Shade of Magic. I'm gonna be reading that one really soon. And then, because I was in a manga mood, I picked up Dragonball Volume 1, which is 3-in-1. I gave Dragonball 2.8 stars. I think I bumped it to 3 on Goodreads, but honestly didn't get quite there on 3 stars. This tells a story about Goku. He is a boy who has a monkey tail and he's super strong, and he has some weird powers that were not really explained here yet. At least I don't know if they are going to be explained, but it's not the point of the novel anyway. But there's this girl, I forgot the name, Bulma. Bulma is looking for Dragon Balls, and there's 9 Dragon Balls. I already forgot. But she finds one with Goku because he has one that was his grandfather's. And they go on this adventure together to find the Dragon Balls, because if they find them, they can talk to the dragon and make a wish. And they meet a bunch of new characters in the way. There's tournament in the end of this one that I'm very curious to see how it's gonna end. But the reason why this book was not even a 3 stars for me was because it's very, very sexist and very unnecessary ways. I know this is part of the culture and people expect it to be like that, but I don't like it, and I got very distracted when it was just about women and sexual ways. So I don't know, that's very not what I wanted it to be, but the adventure part and the traveling part is very fun, and the Dragon Ball part is a lot of fun. There's still stupid jokes here that they're funny, but a lot of it is not. So I don't know, I want to continue because I want to see what happens, and I've heard that it gets less sexual, less sexist, I don't know, in other volumes, because it's more about the fight, especially in Dragon Ball Z. So I don't know, maybe I will pick up the next one and see if I feel better about it, if I'm still curious about the story. But that's what happened with this one. Then I was still in the mood to read something with illustrations, basically, and I picked up The Prince and the Dressmaker from my library. This is a very cute graphic novel and very short. Tells a story about a woman who is a girl who is a dressmaker, and she's hired by someone in court who wants her to make dresses for them. And when she gets there, she finds out, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but it's not really the point of being a spoiler in the book, but she finds out it's actually the prince. He likes to dress in beautiful dresses, and she makes beautiful dresses, and they go out together and just have fun in Paris. That's pretty much what the book is, and it's so cute. I gave it 4 stars, and it's just a lot of fun. It made me happy, and if you have it from your library, I really recommend you pick it up because it's so short and it's so cute. Just 3 more to go. I think we're doing okay on time. The next book I read in June was The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I gave this book 4.6 stars, and I bumped it to 5 stars because I loved it, and I want to read everything that she wrote, and I want to read everything that could vaguely be described as the vibe that this book has. In this book, the cities have souls, so it's not exactly a soul, but they pick a human to be their avatar, and this person is like the embodiment of the city. And in New York, there are 6 avatars. Right in the beginning, this starts so fast-paced already. And in the beginning, there's this enemy who is attacking the city, and you don't know what it is, who it is, what it wants, what it's going to do, and it's very exciting. This is a lot of fun. There's so many characters. This is one of the most diverse books I've ever read in my life. And I think it's the first book that I've ever read that has a Brazilian person who is very important in the story. And it's not a Brazilian book. So that was already a lot of fun for me. There's some cool Brazilian things in the middle of the book that made me happy. But other than that, there's a lot of representation for so many different things here. Most of the characters are Black. most of the characters are LGBTQ plus characters. It's just a very diverse book with a lot of representation. But this story is so much more. Like, it's such a fun, cool superhero story. Really, like, getting all the Avengers together. That's how I felt, because it felt very superhero-like. Honestly, the middle of the book, a little bit, it felt a little slow. So I had to push myself through like 20% to like 50-60% of the book. It was a bit slow for me, but I was still so curious to see what was going to happen. I think it was because the beginning of it was so action-packed that when it slowed down, it felt slow, but it was just because I was comparing to the beginning. I don't know. And the magic system here is very loose. So if you like strong rules and magic, that's not what you're gonna get here. And I usually like stronger rules, but I think it makes a lot of sense for this one. I don't know, I think it's gonna make more sense in the sequels. I can't wait for the sequels to be announced because we need sequels to this book. But still, the ending is so satisfying and I loved it. And I think everyone should read this book if you like superheroes, if you like urban fantasy. It's really good. The next book I read in June was Kind of Cruelty by Araminta Hall. This is like a stalker story. That there's this man who believes to be in a relationship with a woman when she doesn't agree that he's in a relationship with her, and he believes that everything that she's doing are signals for him about this secret relationship that they have. So it's a very scary stalker story, and I gave this 3.5 stars, and it was really hard to choose what to give it on Goodreads. And I'm so happy that we're all now trying new reading apps and websites, because now we're gonna be able to give half stars for the books when they deserve half stars, because I put it as a 3 stars on Goodreads, and it's not. It's a 3.5, but it's not quite 4, so I didn't want to put it a 4 star. So I ended up put it as a 3. But in other reading websites, we're going to be able to do that. I'm trying Book Sloth, not so much because I couldn't sync from Goodreads to Book Sloth, so I'm not looking at that so much anymore. But the Storygraph just this morning imported all my Goodreads books, so I'm very excited. I didn't even add this one there yet, but I will, and it's going to be a 3.5 stars there. I really enjoyed what this book did, but I was hoping a little bit more for the ending, and I think it was a really long book. It's not a long book, but I think it was very long because, like, at some point you already know what she was trying to say, and it kept repeating in different ways. Like, we know that exactly what I meant, that this guy turns everything that the woman says into a signal for him, and we get that a lot in the book. So I think it could be shorter. I really like the third part. I can't say what it is about because it would be a spoiler, but I really like the third part the best, which has a theme that I usually don't like, but I think it was good for here. But yeah, I haven't heard anyone talking about this book, so if you read it, please let me know. So I'd love to chat about it a little bit. Before I talk about the last book, on my July TBR video, I asked you guys to choose between the 6 books for me to read, so you should go there and vote. I'm gonna put the link right in the cards there. The last book that I read so far in June was Witchy by Ariel Slamet-Reese. This came in the Alcrate box, in the June box, and I read it right after I received it because I was curious. It's a graphic novel. I gave this 3.3 stars, and I really like this universe. This is about this world of witches. Whoever has the longest hair has more power, but if you have hair that is too long, then you're an enemy of the kingdom. I didn't get that part too well. I don't know if you're an enemy for the other witches or for another government, because it doesn't talk too much about it. This girl has a really, really long hair, but she disguises her hair to look shorter because of things that happened in her past. She doesn't want everyone to know that she has long hair, and she doesn't have such as a strong power as you would expect for how long her hair is anyway. But I really like this idea. I really like this premise, but I think it was very confusing. I couldn't find anywhere if this is going to have a sequel, but there was no ending, so I was left very confused. Like, if I at least knew that there will be a sequel, it would have been better, I guess. But still, this on its own was not a super satisfying read. I really like some of the characters here. I wanted to know more about them, but there's a few subplots that, for a very short graphic novel, like, don't hear so much about the characters because of the subplots, but their subplots, they don't get enough time to develop. So I don't know. I just wished it was longer and it was more explained and more developed, because I think I really like the idea. I really like the premise. It's just not super satisfying. That was it. Those are the 12 books that I read so far in June. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you so much for joining me.